What's going on, Colts Nation? I appreciate you joining me for another video where today we're going to talk a little bit about one of the other candidates, somebody that was already interviewed, but somebody that is a very well-known defensive coordinator. Steve Wilks has been interviewed by the Colts, and I'm just looking into, what would be the benefit of Steve Wilks, right? You lose Gus Bradley. So what does it look like when you move on from him? What's the next guy going to do? When you look at Steve Wilks, he does offer some similarities in some places where he differs, right? When you look at blitzing, he's not shy about blitzing. When he was with Carolina, his first year with Carolina, they led the league in blitz rate in that first year that he was defensive coordinator. And then when he was with the Cardinals, they were third in blitz rate, right? Somebody that Wilson, now when he was with San Francisco, I believe through that regular season, it was a 20.7% rate where they were sending an extra person rather than the four down lineman. But there in San Francisco, that's what he relied on. That's something he would like to rely on is four down linemen to go and get pressure, right? Which is where ultimately the year that Steve Wilks was the defensive coordinator there, their downfall was the defense. And it's because he backed off of what he normally does. I think the thing that made him successful is his aggressiveness when he would blitz, right? Somebody that he runs a lot of zone coverage. So in terms of, those are one of the similarities with Gus Bradley, right? When you think about, the differences, the similarities from one to the other, it is primarily zone coverage when you think about Steve Wilks and his defense, but he does switch it up. He's not running just a bunch of cover two. He's not running a bunch of cover three. He's going to switch up his coverages. He will disguise things, and he'll switch things, pre-snap, post-snap, right? And he'll have that element to his game. But it's just what could he do? And it's just again historically looking at his defenses. He wants his front four. Right, he's going to rely on those guys to have their one-on-one matchups and to be able to win those one-on-one matchups. But he will blitz. He is not afraid to send blitzes, and I think that's one thing. If we were to go with Steve Wilks, then which at this point with everybody else, I don't know exactly how likely that seems, but I think Steve Wilks offers a lot of the same benefits that these other guys offer, right? All the guys that we've talked about so far, between Lou Anarumo, Dennis Allen, and Wing Martindale, like all these guys are good with being aggressive. Lou Anarumo maybe more or not as aggressive as the other ones, right? But I think all four of these guys that we've talked about so far don't really have so much of an issue with being aggressive. They'll send a blitz from time to time. And again, when you talk about Steve Wilks, the predictability just comes because it's going to be zone. And then for an elite quarterback, I think at that point it's just if they can figure out what play you're in and what zone you're running, like there are different routes that receivers can run that are specific to, hey, we're looking at this defense. This is the route combination we're going to have to run. And they can make those audibles. They can make those checks. I assume at this high of a level in the NFL, these guys can make adjustments on the fly, as the play starts and they're running the route. Okay, hey, what am I looking at? Boom, boom. This is what, the quarterback's going to want me to do. So this is what's going to happen. So from that aspect, that's where it gets tough. When you think about Dennis Allen, you think about Wing Martindale, these other guys that are fine with running man coverage and in a way almost leave their corners on an island, right, and try to trust them with just doing their job and being able to cover, but also playing them closer to a line of scrimmage, letting them be more aggressive. I think that's what's going to be critical with whoever we bring in. And I'm not entire because Steve Wilks runs a zone heavy scheme. I'm not quite sure if his scheme is really going to fit where we need to go as defense. I think we need to be more aggressive. I think we do need to play more man coverage and rely more on that, right? That single high man coverage where again you're giving Jalen Jones and Juju Brents, if he's able to stay healthy, whoever we might bring in, right? Letting these guys fight at the line of scrimmage. Kenny Moore, right? He's a smaller guy, but I mean he's lightning in a bottle. We've seen him flip Derrick Henry. Okay, this is a guy that can be physical and playing in the slot. He's had to be physical his entire career despite his size. So I think playing these guys closer to the line of scrimmage will benefit the Colts. And being able to do that is going to help the pass rush when you can throw these guys off their routes, when you can make sure that the quarterback isn't just boom, easy completion, easy completion, easy completion, right? He's going to make quarterbacks hold the ball. If our pass rush is trash, right? If we consistently make quarterbacks hold the ball because the secondary is playing aggressively with the wide receivers, which is making all their routes take just, an extra second longer and the defense still can't get home, then there's an obvious problem. But again, when you take that thing about the coordinators we're talking to, they blitz. And so you send the extra pressure, right? When you think about Latu, a young guy like Latu, a guy like Kwity Paye, if you send an extra guy all the time, and not even I say all the time, like a third of the time, right? Or a little less than a third of the time, or a quarter of the time, between 25 and 33%, right? If that's your blitz rate, somewhere in that range, with who we have on the defensive line, it can only help us, right? Those one-on-one matchups, all of a sudden, like true one-on-one matchups, and if they want to double team DeForest Buckner, you want to double team Grover Stewart, which happens all the time, then it's going to be a problem. Like then your running back is getting taken up now. Running backs can't leave the backfield because we're sending blitzes. Whereas before, if the quarterback really needed to, he could just check it down to the running back. They do that all the time. A lot of Texas routes ran on us. And angle routes ran on us because of running backs just getting out of the backfield. We're not going to blitz them. Linebackers just floating in open space in the middle of the field, right? And that's how the Gus Bradley defense did. So we got to be more aggressive. We got to be closer to the line of scrimmage in some aspects, and doing that. When, of course, there's cause and effect. When you're more aggressive, it opens you up to giving up deep plays, and that can happen. I'm not saying we're not going to do that, but I do think, again, with who we have on our defensive front, that's why it pays to be aggressive. You have to understand your situation. Who do you have up front, and which four guys can consistently get you the best pressure, like your best combination of four guys. Run them as often as you possibly can and send an extra guy or two. Again, 25 to 33% of the time. Boom, extra people, right? Throwing the quarterback off, disguising, right? And Steve Wilks, again, he's a guy who could fit into that. The only thing I think he doesn't fit into is being zone heavy, and going. We're looking for a complete philosophical change. But again, a lot of experience with Steve Wilks, a guy that again has experience, briefly as a head coach, but also a couple of defensive coordinator jobs. So somebody that's been around, is the thing about a lot of the guys we're interviewing. They're secondary heavy. These guys know what they're doing in the secondary. They've been secondary coaches in the past. And so I think that's one of the big benefits with Steve Wilks and having a young secondary, needing to get better on the back end. So we'll see what happens. Okay, this is a very open competition. I haven't heard anything about one way or the other, and we're still early on in the interviewing process, seemingly. Still plenty of guys that could get interviewed, and we'll see exactly what happens. Seems like Robert Saleh looking to be a head coach. Looks like he could end up in Jacksonville, was the report that I saw. Defensive, I have not heard about him at all throughout any of this cycle outside of possibly being the Jags coach. So we'll see what happens. If there's anybody else that comes up, I'm going to continue to look at the possibilities, and continue to look at, hey, who are we going to talk to? Who might we bring in? What do we need to know about these guys as they're coming in? And for this conversation, Steve Wilks just seems a little too many. The element of Gus Bradley that he's similar to is like that's the one we're trying to get rid of anyways. That's where I'm at with it. So I think Steve Wilks probably not a great fit, but we'll see what happens and what the possibilities are going to be. We have Dennis Allen. Will he take a job elsewhere? Wink Martindale, will he stay in Michigan? Will he go to Atlanta, or will he come to Indy? Who knows what could happen? Possibilities are endless, and of course I will let you guys know as soon as there's any other updates, any news, whatever the case may be. We're going to start talking about free agency soon as well. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you have notifications on so you get notified anytime we drop any more content. Going to be talking throughout the entire off season. Want to know what you guys are thinking. All right. Of course, I appreciate you stopping by for another video. And as always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and go Colts.